The dense forest of the Pacific Northwest had always been a place of whispers and shadows. To the locals, it was a place where reality seemed to fray at the edges, where the line between the known and the unknown blurred in the twilight hours. It was here, in this remote and uncharted wilderness, that the legends of Bigfoot took root. And it was here, on an unusually crisp September night, that a new legend was about to be written, one that would haunt the forest forever. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie silvery glow through the canopy of ancient trees. The wind rustled through the leaves, carrying with it the scent of pine and something else, something wild and untamed. A low, guttural growl echoed through the woods, its source hidden in the shadows. The creatures of the night went silent, as if they too sensed the shift in the natural order. Deep in the heart of the forest, a massive figure moved with surprising stealth for its size. Bigfoot, or Sasquatch as some called it, was a creature of legend, said to stand 12 feet tall, with long, muscular limbs covered in shaggy brown fur. Its eyes glowed faintly in the dark, a primal intelligence evident in their depths. For years, the creature had roamed these woods, an elusive giant shrouded in mystery. Tonight, Bigfoot was not alone. The creature's senses were on high alert as it navigated the terrain with practiced ease. It had heard the growl, an unusual, unnatural growl. It was not the sound of any beast it knew. This was something different, something that sent a ripple of unease through its primal instincts. Meanwhile, not far from Bigfoot's path, another predator prowled. The grizzly bear, a beast of immense strength and ferocity, was known to be the undisputed ruler of its domain. This particular grizzly was larger than most, standing at nearly 10 feet tall on its hind legs and weighing close to 1,000 pounds. Its fur was matted and dark, and its claws were like lethal hooks, capable of rending flesh with terrifying ease. The bear's den was nestled in a rocky outcrop, its entrance partially concealed by undergrowth. Tonight, the grizzly was restless, its sleep interrupted by an unsettling sensation. It had sensed a presence, something that did not belong. The grizzly's acute senses picked up the scent of something foreign, a musky, earthy smell that was neither the aroma of prey nor the familiar scent of its own kind. The bear lumbered out of its den, its powerful muscles rippling beneath its fur. It followed the scent trail, its heavy steps causing the forest floor to tremble slightly. The growl that had disturbed it earlier now seemed to echo through the trees, a challenge rather than a call. As the two predators drew closer, the atmosphere grew charged with tension. The forest was thick with the smell of fear and anticipation. Bigfoot's immense frame moved silently through the underbrush, its keen eyes scanning the darkness. The creature's instincts were sharp, but it was not used to facing such a formidable opponent. The forest was its domain, but tonight it felt as though it were intruding. Suddenly, the growl grew louder, more aggressive. Bigfoot halted, its head turning in the direction of the sound. The creature's breath came in deep, measured puffs, visible in the cold night air. It tensed, muscles coiling like springs. This was no ordinary challenge, it was something far more sinister. The grizzly emerged into a small clearing, its eyes narrowing as it spotted Bigfoot through the trees. The two titans of the forest locked eyes, the air between them crackling with hostility. The grizzly let out a roar that shook the very ground, a declaration of dominance and a warning to the intruder. Bigfoot responded with a roar of its own, a deep, resonant sound that seemed to echo through the forest. The creature's roar was a mix of anger and defiance, a challenge to the grizzly's claim. The clearing became a stage for the impending clash, both creatures sizing each other up, their primal instincts taking over. The grizzly lunged first, its massive claws swiping through the air with a speed that belied its size. Bigfoot dodged with surprising agility, its long arms reaching out to grab the bear. The clash of their strength reverberated through the forest, the trees seeming to bend away from the force of their confrontation. The fight was brutal and raw, a primal struggle between two of nature's fiercest predators. The grizzly's claws slashed through the air, striking Bigfoot's fur and leaving shallow gashes. Bigfoot retaliated with powerful swings of its arms, trying to land a blow that would subdue the bear. The forest was filled with the sounds of their battle, the growls, roars, and the sounds of their massive bodies crashing into one another. The trees creaked and groaned under the strain of their conflict, their branches shaking with every impact. As the night wore on, it became clear that neither creature would easily give in. The fight raged on, both Bigfoot and the Grizzly locked in a struggle that seemed to defy the natural order. The outcome of their clash was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the forest would never be the same. The night seemed to stretch on endlessly as Bigfoot and the Grizzly continued their fierce confrontation. The forest had become a chaotic battleground, a place where the laws of nature seemed to be rewritten by the sheer force of the two titans' struggle. Their roars and growls pierced through the darkness, reverberating off the ancient trees and unsettling the delicate balance of the wilderness. Bigfoot, with its immense strength and agility, used its long arms to try and overpower the Grizzly. Each swing was powerful, aimed at exploiting any vulnerability in the bear's formidable defense. The Grizzly, however, was relentless and ferocious, its claws slicing through the air with deadly precision. It roared in defiance, each attack a demonstration of its dominance and raw power. The clearing, once a serene part of the forest, was now a chaotic scene of destruction. Trees were uprooted, their branches scattered across the ground. The earth was churned into a muddy mess, reflecting the intensity of the battle. The remnants of the underbrush were trampled, and the air was thick with the acrid scent of sweat, blood, and broken foliage. At one point, Bigfoot managed to get a solid grip on the Grizzly's fur, its large hands wrapping around the bear's massive shoulders. The bear roared in pain and anger, twisting violently to break free. The force of the struggle sent both creatures crashing into a cluster of trees, the impact causing them to splinter and fall. The Grizzly, though momentarily stunned, quickly recovered. It shook its head, trying to clear its vision, and charged once more at Bigfoot with renewed fury. Bigfoot met the charge head-on, their bodies colliding with a thunderous crash. The ground trembled beneath them as they grappled, each creature using its brute strength to gain the upper hand. As the fight wore on, it became apparent that both creatures were evenly matched in strength and determination. Fatigue began to set in, their movements becoming slower and more labored. The forest, which had once seemed alive with energy and tension, now felt eerily quiet, save for the labored breathing of the two combatants. The moon, casting a pale light over the scene, seemed to watch in silent horror as the battle continued. Shadows danced across the clearing, creating an ever-shifting landscape of dark and light. The once crisp night air was now heavy with the stench of exhaustion and the relentless rhythm of the struggle. Bigfoot, despite its towering size and strength, was beginning to show signs of weariness. The Grizzly's relentless assault had taken a toll, its powerful claws having left their mark. Blood mingled with the mud on the forest floor, a testament to the brutality of their clash. Bigfoot's breath came in ragged gasps, its movements slower as it tried to catch its breath. The Grizzly, too, was showing signs of fatigue. Its once imposing presence was marred by the numerous gashes and bruises it had sustained. The bear's eyes, though still fierce, betrayed a hint of the toll the battle had taken. It growled with a mixture of frustration and determination, unwilling to concede despite the mounting exhaustion. In a rare moment of pause, the two combatants locked eyes once more. There was a moment of mutual recognition, a silent acknowledgement of each other's strength and resilience. It was as if the forest itself held its breath, waiting to see how the confrontation would resolve. Suddenly, a new sound pierced through the silence. It was a low, haunting howl that echoed through the trees. The sound was otherworldly, unlike anything either Bigfoot or the Grizzly had heard before. It was a sound that seemed to come from deep within the forest, a chilling reminder that the night was far from over. The howl was followed by a series of eerie guttural noises, as if something, or someone, was moving through the shadows. Both Bigfoot and the Grizzly turned their heads in unison, their instincts immediately alert to the new threat. The battle was momentarily forgotten as they focused on the source of the unsettling sound. From the darkness beyond the clearing, something emerged. It was a figure shrouded in shadow, its presence almost spectral in the moonlight. The figure moved with a fluid grace, its eyes glowing with a faint, unnatural light. It was not a creature of the forest, nor was it entirely human. It was something other, something ancient and mysterious. Bigfoot and the Grizzly watched in stunned silence as the figure approached. The howl had ceased, but the eerie silence that followed was even more unsettling. The figure moved closer, its form becoming clearer. It was clad in a tattered cloak, and its face was obscured by a hood. There was an aura of malevolence about it, an unsettling presence that seemed to twist the very air around it. The figure stopped at the edge of the clearing, its eyes locked onto Bigfoot and the Grizzly. It raised a hand, and the air seemed to grow colder, the temperature dropping as if in response to its presence. The forest, once alive with the sounds of battle, now fell into an oppressive silence. The figure spoke, its voice a chilling whisper that seemed to carry an otherworldly resonance. "The time has come for the balance to be restored," it intoned. "The forest has been disturbed, and it is up to me to rectify the chaos." Bigfoot and the Grizzly exchanged wary glances, their earlier confrontation forgotten in the face of this new, mysterious presence. The figure's words hung in the air, laden with a sense of foreboding. Whatever this entity was, it was clear that it had come to impose its own sense of order on the forest. As the figure raised its hand once more, the ground beneath the clearing began to tremble. The trees swayed as if caught in a gale, and the temperature dropped even further. Bigfoot and the Grizzly braced themselves, their primal instincts sensing that the true challenge was only beginning. The figure's presence seemed to cast a spell over the forest, its power palpable and unsettling. The battle between Bigfoot and the Grizzly was now overshadowed by this enigmatic force, leaving both creatures to face a new and formidable threat. The chilling silence that had settled over the clearing was broken only by the soft rustling of leaves, stirred by an unnatural breeze. The figure, cloaked in shadow, stood motionless as if waiting for a sign from the forest itself. Its presence was like a weight pressing down on the very air, filling the clearing with a sense of dread and anticipation. Bigfoot and the Grizzly, despite their previous conflict, now faced a common enemy, a force that neither could fully understand or confront alone. Their mutual wariness was evident as they watched the cloaked figure with a mix of fear and curiosity. The battle that had so consumed them seemed insignificant compared to the otherworldly power now before them. The figure's voice, when it spoke again, was even more haunting. "The balance of the forest is delicate," it said, its tone carrying an ancient, echoing quality. "You two have upset it, and now you must face the consequences." As the figure spoke, its hand moved in a slow, deliberate arc through the air. The ground beneath the clearing seemed to pulse with an eerie, rhythmic energy. The trees groaned as if responding to an unseen force, their branches swaying as though guided by an invisible hand. The temperature continued to plummet, and the breath of both Bigfoot and the Grizzly crystallized in the cold air. The sense of unease grew as the figure began to chant in a language that neither creature could recognize. The words were alien, their cadence both hypnotic and foreboding. Bigfoot, despite its formidable size and strength, took a cautious step back, its eyes never leaving the cloaked figure. The Grizzly too seemed momentarily stunned, its fierce gaze locked on the entity as it tried to make sense of the unfolding situation. The primal instincts that had guided them through their fight were now overwhelmed by a fear of the unknown. Suddenly, the figure raised its arms high above its head. The energy in the clearing surged, and the ground began to crack and split. Deep fissures formed in the earth, emitting a faint, eerie glow. The trees seemed to lean away from the center of the disturbance, their branches reaching out as if trying to escape the unnatural force. The Grizzly roared, its voice a guttural expression of both anger and confusion. It charged at the figure, its massive claws extended in a desperate attempt to break through the malevolent force. But as it approached, the figure's cloak seemed to swirl with an unnatural wind, and the Grizzly was thrown back as if repelled by an invisible barrier. Bigfoot watched in stunned silence as the Grizzly struggled to regain its footing. The creature's roar echoed through the clearing, mingling with the low, resonant chanting of the figure. Bigfoot's own instinct to fight surged, but it hesitated, unsure of how to confront an enemy that defied the natural order. The figure's chanting grew louder, more intense. The fissures in the ground widened, revealing a strange, pulsating light emanating from deep within the earth. The glow was otherworldly, casting an eerie, shifting illumination over the clearing. Shadows danced across the trees, and the very air seemed to crackle with an ancient, forgotten power. Bigfoot felt a deep, primal sense of unease. The creature's instincts told it that this was no ordinary threat, that the power at play was beyond anything it had encountered before. It took a tentative step forward, its enormous frame moving with a cautious grace. The grizzly, still recovering from its failed charge, watched with a mixture of fear and curiosity. The figure continued its chant, the words now almost a piercing wail that seemed to resonate through the very fabric of reality. The light from the fissures grew brighter, casting a spectral glow over the clearing. The ground shook with increasing intensity, and the trees swayed violently, their leaves falling in a chaotic shower. Bigfoot and the grizzly, despite their differences and previous hostility, found themselves united in their struggle against the enigmatic force. The grizzly's eyes met Bigfoot's, and for a brief moment, there was a shared understanding. They both knew that survival depended on facing this new threat together. With a roar of defiance, Bigfoot charged once more, its massive arms swinging with powerful intent. The grizzly, its anger and fear combined, joined the assault. The two creatures moved as one, their combined strength a force of nature as they tried to break through the figure's barrier. The figure, its chant now reaching a fevered pitch, seemed to be channeling the very power of the earth. The light from the fissures blazed brighter, and the air grew colder still. The clash between the creatures and the figure was a surreal spectacle, a battle of primal fury against ancient, arcane power. Despite their efforts, the barrier remained unyielding. The grizzly and Bigfoot's attacks were repelled with a force that seemed to be beyond physical strength. The energy from the fissures surged, and the ground beneath them continued to quake. The clearing had become a maelstrom of light and shadow, a place where the natural and supernatural collided. As the intensity of the battle grew, the figure's chant reached a crescendo. The light from the fissures exploded outward in a blinding flash, and the clearing was momentarily engulfed in a searing brilliance. Bigfoot and the grizzly shielded their eyes, their forms silhouetted against the intense glow. When the light finally subsided, the clearing was eerily quiet. The fissures had closed, and the ground had returned to its normal state. The trees, though still swaying slightly, had stopped their violent motion. The temperature began to rise, and the oppressive chill that had pervaded the clearing began to dissipate. The figure was gone. The cloak and the spectral presence had vanished as suddenly as they had appeared. In the aftermath of the battle, the clearing was left in a state of unsettling calm. The only sounds were the soft rustling of the leaves and the distant calls of the forest's nocturnal creatures. Bigfoot and the grizzly stood amidst the wreckage of their confrontation, their breaths coming in heavy, ragged gasps. The fight had been a fierce one, but it was clear that the true challenge had been the enigmatic figure. The forest had been shaken, but its ultimate balance had yet to be determined. The two titans of the forest looked at each other, their mutual hostility now overshadowed by a shared experience of facing an otherworldly force. The battle between them seemed insignificant in the face of the greater threat they had encountered. Bigfoot took a tentative step back, its eyes still wary. The grizzly, though exhausted, maintained its stance, its gaze fixed on the remnants of the disturbance. The forest, though scarred and disrupted, began to heal in its own way, the natural order slowly returning. As the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, the clearing was bathed in the soft, golden glow of morning. The night's events seemed like a fading dream, a haunting memory of a confrontation that had defied the bounds of reality. The forest, ancient and wise, held its secrets close. The battle between Bigfoot and the grizzly would become another story woven into its lore, a tale of primal strength, ancient power, and the delicate balance that governed the wilderness. The dawn light filtered through the canopy, casting long, soft shadows over the clearing where the night's events had unfolded. The forest, though scarred and unsettled, seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief as the first rays of sunlight touched its wounded terrain. Birds began to stir, their songs tentative and hesitant, as if unsure of the new order of things. Bigfoot and the grizzly, though still weary from their battle, stood apart, their mutual understanding forged in the fires of their shared ordeal. They no longer regarded each other as adversaries but as fellow survivors of an encounter that had transcended their primal conflict. As the day continued, the forest seemed to awaken from a troubled slumber. The leaves, once scattered and torn, rustled gently in the morning breeze, and the ground, although marked by the previous night's chaos, began to settle back into its natural state. The air was filled with a sense of quiet, an almost reverent calm that followed the storm of the previous night. Bigfoot moved cautiously through the clearing, its eyes scanning the area with a renewed sense of vigilance. The creature's fur was matted with sweat and dirt, and its massive frame bore the marks of the battle, a series of scratches and bruises that would eventually heal. The grizzly too was a picture of exhaustion, its fur ruffled and stained. The bear's eyes, once filled with fierce determination, now held a trace of reflection and uncertainty. Despite their fatigue, both creatures were compelled to investigate the aftermath of the mysterious figure's appearance. The fissures in the ground had closed, leaving behind no more than subtle scars. Lines in the earth that seemed to pulsate faintly, as if retaining a memory of the arcane disturbance. As Bigfoot approached one of these scars, it felt a shiver pass through its massive frame. The sensation was not physical, but seemed to resonate deep within its being. The ground beneath its feet felt strangely warm, almost as if it were alive. The forest, too, seemed to be holding its breath, as if awaiting the next chapter in the unfolding mystery. The grizzly lumbered over, its keen senses picking up on the unusual warmth. It sniffed at the scar, its nostrils twitching as it tried to discern the source of the disturbance. The bear's powerful claws dug gently into the earth, revealing a strange, dark substance that seemed to glow faintly with an inner light. It was unlike anything either creature had encountered before, an otherworldly residue that defied explanation. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the clearing, causing both Bigfoot and the grizzly to freeze. The sound was distant but growing closer, a deep, resonant vibration that seemed to come from beneath the ground. The trees trembled slightly, and the air grew heavy once more. From the edge of the clearing, a figure emerged. It was not the cloaked entity from the previous night, but rather an old woman, her presence both commanding and unsettling. She was draped in tattered robes that seemed to blend with the forest's shadows, her eyes sharp and piercing beneath a hood of woven leaves. The old woman moved with a deliberate grace, her steps light and measured. As she approached, she raised a gnarled staff high above her head, its tip adorned with strange symbols and carvings. The staff seemed to hum with a low, melodic vibration, and the very air around it seemed to pulse with an ancient energy. Bigfoot and the grizzly watched with a mixture of wariness and curiosity. The old woman's presence was unlike anything they had ever encountered, a figure who seemed to embody the very essence of the forest's primal power. Her eyes, though aged and weathered, held a glint of deep, ancient knowledge. The old woman stopped at the edge of the clearing and spoke in a voice that seemed to carry the weight of centuries. "The balance of the forest is delicate," she said, her tone both soothing and commanding. "You two have been part of a greater design, a design that seeks to restore what has been disrupted." Bigfoot and the grizzly exchanged uneasy glances. The old woman's words were cryptic, but there was a sense of truth in them. It was clear that the figure from the previous night had been a manifestation of some deeper, more ancient force, one that sought to maintain the harmony of the forest. The old woman continued, her voice resonating with an almost musical quality. "The figure you encountered was a guardian, tasked with maintaining the balance between the natural and the supernatural. Its appearance was a sign that the forest's equilibrium had been disturbed." The grizzly growled softly, its curiosity piqued. "What caused this disturbance?" it rumbled, its voice a deep, resonant growl. The old woman's gaze softened as she regarded the bear. "The disturbance was not caused by any one action, but by the collective disruption of the forest's harmony. The struggle between you two, though intense, was a part of a greater cycle, a cycle that seeks to balance the forces of nature." Bigfoot took a step forward, its massive frame casting a long shadow in the morning light. "What must we do to restore this balance?" it asked, its voice a deep, rumbling growl that spoke of both curiosity and resolve. The old woman's eyes seemed to search the depths of Bigfoot's soul. "The balance will be restored through understanding and respect," she said. "You must acknowledge the role you play in the forest's greater design. The power of the guardian has been spent, and now it is up to the creatures of the forest to honor the harmony that binds them." With a graceful motion, the old woman lowered her staff. The strange symbols on its surface seemed to shift and shimmer, reflecting the light of the dawn. She took a deep breath, and the forest around her seemed to respond, the tension easing as if in acknowledgement of her presence. "The Guardian's task is complete," the old woman continued, "but the forest's equilibrium is fragile. You must heed the lessons of the night and work together to ensure that harmony is maintained." As the old woman finished speaking, she began to retreat back into the shadows of the forest. Her departure was as silent as her arrival, leaving Bigfoot and the Grizzly to contemplate the weight of her words. The forest, once again, began to stir with life, the echoes of the past lingering in the air. Bigfoot and the Grizzly remained in the clearing, their thoughts a tangled mix of contemplation and resolve. The encounter with the mysterious figure and the old woman had shifted their understanding of their place in the forest's intricate web. The battle they had fought, though fierce and primal, was now seen in a new light, a part of a larger, more profound cycle of balance. The dawn light continued to spread across the forest, casting a warm, golden hue over the clearing. The trees, though marked by the night's chaos, began to show signs of recovery. The leaves, once scattered, were slowly being replaced by new growth. The ground, though still scarred, was beginning to heal. Bigfoot and the Grizzly, their mutual animosity now replaced by a shared sense of purpose, turned away from the clearing. They moved through the forest with a newfound respect for the delicate balance that governed their world. The fight that had once seemed all-consuming was now a distant memory, overshadowed by the greater understanding they had gained. As they walked through the forest, the creatures of the wild resumed their daily routines. The songs of the birds grew louder, and the rustling of the leaves became a soothing symphony. The forest, though changed, had returned to a state of harmony, an equilibrium that had been restored through the trials of the night. Bigfoot and the Grizzly knew that their journey was far from over. The forest held many secrets, and the lessons they had learned would guide them in the days to come. The encounter with the Guardian and the old woman had marked a turning point in their lives, a reminder of the fragile balance that bound their world. As they disappeared into the depths of the forest, the clearing where their battle had taken place became a quiet testament to their shared struggle. The scars in the ground were a reminder of the night's events, a symbol of the delicate balance that governed the ancient wilderness. The forest, with its ancient trees and hidden secrets, continued to thrive in its timeless dance of life and death. The echoes of the past lingered in the air, a reminder of the forces that shaped the world and the delicate equilibrium that must be preserved. The sun climbed higher in the sky, its golden rays piercing through the dense canopy of the forest. The clearing, once the stage for an epic struggle, now lay in a heavy silence, marked by the scars of the recent conflict. The ground was littered with debris and signs of the ferocious battle that had unfolded. Bigfoot and the Grizzly, both titans of the forest, had clashed with a fury that had shaken the very heart of the wilderness. The outcome of their struggle was now clear, and the clearing bore witness to the resolution of their primal conflict. Bigfoot stood over the fallen form of the Grizzly, its massive frame heaving with exhausted breaths. The creature's fur was matted with blood, and its powerful limbs were marked by the marks of the fierce battle. The Grizzly lay still, its eyes closed in defeat, a testament to the overwhelming strength and determination of its opponent. The forest seemed to hold its breath as Bigfoot surveyed the scene. The victory was bittersweet, a triumph that had come at a great cost. The primal force within the forest had been unleashed, and the balance had been restored, but the price of this balance was evident in the fallen Grizzly. Bigfoot's gaze softened as it looked down at the defeated bear. The conflict had been intense and the victory was hard-won, but the creature felt a deep sense of sorrow. The battle between them had been more than just a struggle for dominance. It was a reflection of the ancient, primal forces that governed their world. With a heavy heart, Bigfoot moved away from the clearing, its powerful steps deliberate and measured. The forest, though marked by the recent struggle, began to show signs of recovery. The trees, the ground, and the very air seemed to breathe a sigh of relief as the tension of the conflict slowly dissipated. As Bigfoot traversed the forest, the echoes of the battle faded into the background. The wilderness, resilient and ever-changing, began to reclaim its sense of harmony. The creatures of the forest resumed their routines, the songs of the birds growing louder and the rustling of the leaves becoming a soothing melody once more. Bigfoot's journey through the forest was one of reflection and renewal. The creature's understanding of its place in the grand tapestry of the wilderness had deepened. The struggle with the grizzly had reinforced the delicate balance that governed their world, and the need for respect among its inhabitants. The clearing where the final confrontation had taken place became a quiet, somber monument to the clash of primal forces. The scars in the ground were a reminder of the power and intensity of the struggle, a testament to the raw strength and determination that defined both Bigfoot and the grizzly. As the sun began to set, casting a warm, golden glow over the forest, Bigfoot found a secluded spot near a tranquil stream. The water flowed gently, its surface reflecting the last light of the day. Bigfoot settled beside the stream, its massive frame stretching out in a position of rest. The forest, with its ancient trees and hidden secrets, continued its timeless dance of life and death. The struggle for dominance had come to an end, and Bigfoot's triumph had restored a sense of equilibrium to the wilderness. The creature's presence was a reminder of the primal forces that shaped their world and the need for balance in the face of such power. As night fell and the stars began to twinkle in the sky, Bigfoot closed its eyes and allowed the calm of the forest to envelop it. The battle had been fierce, but the victory had brought a deeper understanding of the forest's delicate balance. The echoes of the struggle were a part of the wilderness now, a reminder of the ancient forces that defined its existence. The forest, though scarred and changed by the recent conflict, continued to thrive in its own way. The lessons of the battle lingered in the air, a reminder of the raw power and primal instincts that governed the world. Bigfoot's triumph was not just a victory of strength, but a testament to the enduring spirit of the wilderness and the delicate equilibrium that must be maintained. As Bigfoot drifted into a peaceful slumber beside the stream, the forest carried on its timeless dance, embracing the lessons of the past and looking forward to the future. The struggle between Bigfoot and the grizzly had come to a close, but the story of their conflict would be remembered in the annals of the forest's history, a tale of power, balance, and the eternal quest for harmony in a world shaped by primal forces.